It's here. It's finally here. Oh, Elden Ring. You've graced us with your presence, and what a glorious presence it is. Welcome to the lands between, where the fights are memorable and the distances beg you to travel them. But despite that, is Elden Ring worth all the hype built up since its first teaser trailer? Well, we're here to tell you. This is Darryl.
And this is Dion. And this is Where We Stand. Let's start first with just a little bit of our experience with the From Software games. I think everyone knows about them, but I've played personally Sekiro, Destiny 3. Destiny 3. I'm starting over.
No, you're not.
Let's first talk about our experience playing From Software games. I've played Sekiro, maybe 20-ish hours. D3, Dark Souls 3, which I played maybe about 40 in. I know that game is, I don't remember, 50 to beat. And then Dark Souls 1, I played a good amount of that. I think I retried the game at least 3 or 4 times. I had not beat any of these games. None of them. Not one.
And in my case, I've played Sekiro and beat that. It kicked my ass, though. I've played Dark Souls 3, beat that. That was awesome. I played most of Dark Souls 1. Like Dion, it's one of those games that I kept coming back to. It was technically my first Souls game that I touched, but the first one I beat is actually the following one that I'm going to mention, Bloodborne, which was much more of my speed. That's about it out of the From Software experience.
Well, let's get to the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's talk about Elden Ring. First, let's just go about the world of Elden Ring, as it's really something special. Let's talk exploration. So the exploration in this game, I think, is almost unbelievable how they simplified it and how that works so well. No markers, no points of interest, really is a little bit, but you don't really know until you go there. No quest log. None of that. It's like bare bones. You're in a world and you're trying to experience that world. And I think this really challenges the player to really live in it. Right? This is the first game where I'm playing where I'm like, I don't have a checklist and I'm a checklist person. I want a checklist. And this game just says, screw that. You got to go do this, and that's it. This is your goal. Get out there and explore the world. And you learn very quickly, you go fight I fought the first boss, for instance, and I was like, well, this is impossible or not strong enough. I fought him like 2 times, and I was like, okay, this is not even possible. And I had to go and do something else and explore other parts of the world and get level up and get weapons and that kind of thing. So I think this game really challenged you to live within it, and I think it was super successful in doing that.
Yeah, and in my case, I very rarely felt the need to place markers down at all, because you can place markers there, but by default, as Dion said, you don't have anything except your compass to tell you which way is north, south, east, or the one that's not east. And the tricky part with that is knowing where to start most of the time, and they do have a way to guide you just in case with when you touch a site of grace and whatnot, which is this game's version of bonfires. Let's just face it. And they'll give you a general direction of like, oh, here's the light shining off the grace. You go in that general direction. Do you ever make a left or a right? You don't know. You just go. And that's essentially how I would sum up the exploration of the game. You kind of just go. In fact, in my case, all I did was open the map and look at anything that looked like a building or a ruin or anything that looked a little weird on the map, and I said, I'm gonna go there. And that's the only time when I really placed markers down, so I didn't lose that general spot that I wanted to go to. And most of the time, it was well worth the travel. Speaking of traveling in general in Elden Ring is always a treat. You have, and we'll go into more detail about him later, but you have a mount this time around. You have Torrent, who is essentially your horse, goat companion thing, and you ride him, you can ride them to various locations on the map. You have places. I'm surprised at the level of verticality in this game. Let me just say that real quick. Like launching yourself off of a I'm gonna call it a wind geyser. I don't remember what it actually is, into the air to get to a higher point on the map. And sometimes you're not even trying to go up. Sometimes you want to go down. Land on one of those. By the way, spoiler alert: you won't die if you land on one unless you're too high. And I don't know, the traveling and the exploration of the world of Elden Ring it's a sight to behold. It's most of the reason why I've enjoyed the game.
Yeah, I'm going to give the traveling. I mean, the traveling in the world is it's phenomenal. I mean, there's really no other way to say it. They really nailed the fact that you have this open space. You can go anywhere you want, and I mean, it'll definitely let you go anywhere, and you will die if you go.
Yes,
the places you shouldn't.
You're allowed to go wherever you want, but don't cry when you get your ass slapped.
No! Bring that ass here, boy.
Exactly, and you know what? You can run around the enemies and kind of see the world. As you're exploring, you can see points of interest. You can move pretty quickly with Torrent. I really think adding Torrent to the game really helped the experience because you're able to stop by ruins, skip ruins, come back to spots. I actually use the markers a lot. I know you said you didn't, because I would go to a spot, I find the boss slightly hard, then I would put a marker and be like, I'll touch you later, and I'd go away, and then I'd come back maybe 20 hours later and I'd slaughter them, and I'd feel so good about it. So that's how I kind of worked my way through it, and using markers to help myself. Also, before the patch, they didn't let you have NPCs marked.
Yeah.
And that is why I used the marker to figure out my faith. I was using a faith build, so I had to get my faith books, and the guy disappeared, and I had to go find him. So it was very useful to have those markers and have something to use. And that was literally the only thing keeping me like, where am I? And I think I had a challenge of getting used to the fact that I could just go explore. I'm not a person that usually goes out and explore. I'm not really into that for games. I want to make it simple. I don't usually want to explore. I actually prefer more rails on experience. But this game, I had no choice, right? So I had to get used to the fact that I just go and look for things, and I enjoyed it. For the first time, I could say I enjoyed it a lot.
This kind of game is definitely my kryptonite. Like, by the time I finished Elden Ring, I had 100 hours in it, and I know I could have shortened that significantly, but Dion has said this about me in every damn open world video that we've done based on a certain game. I when it comes to trying to keep me on track, that doesn't work. So this kind of game is like anything could be happening, and it's all interesting, which is, in my opinion, a really hard thing to do. But but anything could be happening around me, and I'll just immediately get distracted, ignore a boss that's like in front of me. I'm like, I want to go over here. Why? This mushroom looks funny. Okay, but why do you want to go to? Oh, there's an NPC. Speaking of NPCs, there are so many NPCs in this game. So many. And they all have their own little stories that may intertwine or may not intertwine. And that bleeds into like how the quests are structured and whatnot, and this thing and the other. And it's, I can understand people's gripes with NPCs in the sense that, people would like a list of NPCs that they have met and whatnot. I can vibe with that. I can understand that being the case because there are just that many, and they're not all in your round table. So you can't just rely on coming back to the round table to know who you've spoken to, who you haven't. You might just have to go back to the open world to, meet them. But I think that might have been, as you've mentioned, Dion, why they added that NPC marker thing to the world map in a patch, because they probably realized, holy shit, we might have overdid it here.
It's good too, by the way.
Yeah.
It's very good. It's not even like the most minimal. Like, they actually did work.
Yes.
It's really good.
Like anywhere from named NPCs down to the lowly merchant.
Yeah, and if they're overlapped, they kind of like go out and you can see them. It's perfect. I know a small detail, but it's so good. It's so good.
Details make like the biggest deals, man.
Yes. And I see. So for the NPCs, for me, I actually do not agree with you. I do not think there's that many.
Really?
I think there is some. I mean, the world still feels kind of dead to me in that sense. There are some, but I think that's the point. Dark Souls always had that style where it's a desolate experience, right?
Yeah.
Now there were some, right? There's a lot. You're talking to different people. I found it difficult to just keep track of everything. I also didn't I found out that you have to keep talking to them to learn more. Well, if you don't know that, it kind of sucks for you because you're missing out on stuff, right?
I've talked to, and maybe this is just me, but when I play games in general, I try to exhaust the dialogue all the time, and that's not exclusive to Souls games. So I guess this is one of those cases where I figured most people did that just to see if they had anything else to say. But I guess if you're not in that habit, then you wouldn't know.
Yeah, and I found out early, but if you did not know that you have to exhaust the dialogue, I find that a huge minus for me.
That's a fair one.
I don't think it's fair for someone to lose quests and ideas because they talk to the NPC once. It's not something natural because every game doesn't do that. And the characters could just keep talking and it would be fine.
They could just keep talking. They could give you a dialogue option. They could give you a marker over their head that says they have more to say. Yeah, I get it.
Something. I don't think we have the marker because I think they were going for is the immersion. So I don't think they need that marker, but I would have liked them to say everything important the first time I press X. Don't screw me over.
Hello, my name is Diana. It's nice to meet you. Okay, hi Diana. You start running away. Hold up, do you have anything else you want to say? My father's been kidnapped and I am chained to this orc. Why didn't you say that the first time?
You're stupid.
Important details you're missing here. Important details.
That's fair.
But that was my one negative. I also find it hard to, just like everyone wants a list, it's hard to keep track because you don't have a quest marker, which I'm actually going to list this as a positive that they don't have that quest marker.
I do too.
You're actually like, oh, where do I go? It's a negative that you get lost, but the positive here is that it encouraged you to explore or re-talk to the NPCs or figure it out. And I thought the quests were so difficult to understand. It was so difficult to figure things out for me. I don't understand anything. So I mean, it's definitely a different taste, and I don't know if it's going to be for everyone. Yeah, but it's good. It's good in my opinion. With that, I think we should go ahead and move to the gameplay of the game because that's probably the biggest. It's probably the second biggest. They're about even, right? In this game, they're about even. Exploration and gameplay, which is not necessarily true in most and all From Software games.
I mean, their last endeavor, Sekiro, was essentially like we're mostly narrative and gameplay. The world, while beautiful, is mostly a straight line. So, coming to Elden Ring, you have this wide and large and increasingly large. Do not be deceived by the first time you look at that map. It is a huge world.
Yes,
but this is the first time in a hot minute since Dark Souls 3 that they've gone back to kind of the I want to say the RPG skill point based style of game design.
Yes,
because Sekiro didn't have any of that. You got gadgets and you had to get good at a rhythm game. That's how that game worked.
It's an action game. It was action, and it's a very, very difficult action game, guys. Very difficult.
But in this game, you have so many avenues to like really spice up your gameplay and make it welcoming to. I'm gonna say I'll boldly say it. Welcoming to all players. You got Torrent, who I've briefly mentioned before, and I'm not gonna sit on for too long. You got Torrent, who can not only help you navigate the world, but Torrent can also help you in combat, and also take some of your hits for you. And then you feel bad when he disappears for a little bit, and you gotta bring him back. But he can also help you in combat, and sometimes I'd argue he's probably required for some combat because they're either a huge pain in the butt if you don't use them, or you're just doing yourself a disservice, which can be seen as the same thing.
We're done. Oh, sorry. There, I just had a cough.
I was thinking of Commander O'Neill specifically. Like, oh also god, bad. Yeah, he was rough. And fun fact, and this isn't a spoiler, but more of a helpful tip for anyone who didn't know: Torrent isn't affected by status effects. So if you're playing Elden Ring and watching this video, don't be afraid to use Torrent to get across like areas that you can't run comfortably across. And that's again another avenue that is very helpful to to mitigate unnecessary stress. I'll put it that way.
Well, there was only one spot I can think of where, maybe there's one spot you can use that tip. There's also a spot where they still don't let you use them out, and it's terrible. And I think you know what I'm talking about.
I know the one. I think I know the one. Yeah, doesn't mean what I say doesn't mean you'll always be able to do it. You know, much like another thing I'm about to mention in a moment. But you know, it's a good thing to know. And the thing I was going to mention in a moment is now this thing. You get to use spirits in this game, and that's I believe that's a new addition to, I'm going to say From Software games in general, but it's a new addition to their formula. And spirits, first of all, are awesome. Second of all, use them if you're getting your ass handed to you. Third of all, use them if you need the boss to take their attention off of you for a little bit, because spirits each have their own perks and this and the other that, you know, can aid different kinds of players with different kinds of play styles. And I think that is among the number one means of making the From Software formula more accessible. Because if we went back to like Dark Souls 1, 2, maybe not 2, Dark Souls 1, 3, fuck it, Bloodborne, you know, style of gameplay, you'd be fighting that thing by yourself or with a co-op partner. That's it. You don't have any spirits. But now you do.
Co-op partner is arguably pretty good.
But no, I have no butt there.
Even though you didn't help me at all.
I was playing on a completely different system, my friend.
Yeah, I know. Failure. Anyway,
whatever. It was worth it for the footage.
The spirits are amazing. I mean, there's nothing. Why would you not use them in every boss battle possible, except for the few that don't let you? There's a few.
It's kind of, I won't lie, it is a little inconsistent of when you get to use them, but when you do, it's safe to assume there's a boss or at least a large horde of enemies that you have to fight.
Yes.
One of the two.
And they're very, very helpful.
Yeah.
Especially specific ones, but, you know, keep moving. Let's talk about the combat.
Oh, yeah. And this is in addition to combat. Another welcome addition to the game that was made that actually helps a lot with combat is something so revolutionary that I can't believe they did it. Like, it's absolutely insane. They added a dedicated jump button. You could jump in this game.
Yeah, jump hit. It's king, man. It's so good.
I mean, and I'm not even gonna lie, because you could use like a jump attack, which again, I'm not gonna say it's new necessarily from Soft formula, but it's also just a means of spicing. I'm gonna say it, spicing up gameplay and whatnot, and doing more damage than you normally would.
Yeah, I forgot that wasn't in.
Yeah, in older games, the only way you could jump is if you're holding down the sprint button and then you press it again while you're at max speed, I guess, for your sprint, and then you'll jump. Now you have a dedicated jump button, which threw a lot of us off, or at least those of us who used to do that a lot off. But it's a welcome change. That said, combat in general, and I'm going to wrap this into bosses, it's as unforgiving as you would expect it to be. But it's also, I was going to say it's also fair, but I'm going to say, like,
it's fair most of the time.
Yeah, I'm going to be generous to say 80% of the time. I'd even say 90% of the time, but my brain wanted to say 60 to 70% of the time because there's one thing that always happens in these games that always pisses me off, and it's the doggone tracking for these and for the bosses' attacks. Mobs or whatever. But the bosses, look, if I get sniped from a distance by a curved arrow or something like that, fine. That's okay. But if you're mid-air, you know, they're about to slam me with some attack, I'm expecting you to fall wherever the trajectory would take you. You can't just change directions and suddenly backflip and come back at me or something like that. That's messed up. That's really messed up.
That's an ability. It's an ability.
It might as well be. And spoiler alert, the first boss is very guilty of that. And as according to what some of my friends and coworkers have told me, is among, like, at least in the history of From Software Souls games, is among the toughest first bosses you'll probably encounter in a game like this. Because I won't lie, that first main story major boss, he was such a pain in the ass.
They all were.
They are.
Going up. in that first area, those
Yeah.
three, like those two bosses you fight, right? The
Yeah.
area boss and that main boss, terrible. That sucked. They were hard to dodge. Yes, rough.
There's like a weird balancing act he does with one of his attacks, and you think you're gonna slam right here, and he's like, oh, where am I gonna go? Oh, where am I gonna go? Oh, there's a fly, and then he'll just swat you.
Yeah, you get used to it, but yeah, the fire is also terrible.
Yeah, it is.
Any boss with fire in this game is absolutely the worst. And the Godskin people. And that's all I'll say.
Oh yeah, they're total. Dude, all I gotta say is bears.
Oh, I didn't fight bears. I did not fight bears or dragons. I skipped all of them.
Spoiler, I fought a bear boss. And that's all I'm going to say there. No. I mean, I beat him, but no. Was it a fun fight? Barely. That was an unintentional pun, but you get my point. Some bosses in this game are going to kick your ass, but combat is almost always fair. Like, you'll see where you slipped up. Sometimes the timing can be tight, and sometimes, yeah, there's some cheap deaths. Things that you're like, no, I know I dodged that. But that's why I harped on the tracking of certain attacks for so long. But most of the time when you die, you can see why it happened. And so long as you keep your you remain patient, and this and the other, you'll be fine.
And there's only a few bosses that are unfair. That's the truth.
Yes.
The rest of them are fine.
Yeah.
And I hope they patch them.
If you're ever, and if you're ever in a pinch and whatnot, no one's going to blame you for like stepping away from the boss for a moment. And this is the beauty of it being an open world. No one's going to blame you for like, walking away from that boss, saying, I'll come back to you later, going and beating the shit out of some other bosses you can beat, and doing some grinding and then leveling up and then coming back being like, what up? No one's going to blame you for that. That's kind of what it's there for. And one of the other things that involves combat that is actually really, really awesome is that you could theoretically, I haven't done it because I won't lie, I'm a bit of a scaredy cat sometimes, but you could theoretically probably go, if you're good enough, throughout the whole game, at least in my mind, without needing to sit at a site of grace to replenish your flasks. Because when you kill certain enemy groups or enemy groups in that general area, wherever you're at, it replenishes your flasks each time, both of them. So I thought that was really cool.
Said that. I can't believe you just said you don't have. I can't believe you.
What?
I don't want anyone to be confused. You have to sit at a side of grace. No way. No way. Can't believe you said that.
Why? I sat at the side of grace because I'm like, nah, I don't have enough flasks for this. That's when I'll sit down. I'm not going to keep going around and killing, mobs of enemies if I'm just going to end up dying and losing my runes.
Oh, nah,
dude. I practice survival horror logic in these games because they're essentially horror games with the way that they're designed. Sometimes I ain't gonna play games with them. You take one wrong step, you read someone's message even slightly wrong, like be wary of left what, and then you get sniped off a ledge. I ain't losing my runes to that.
20,000 runes down the drain. Yes, it has happened. Yes, let's talk. I know you haven't talked about this, so I haven't put it in the script, but I want to talk about character builds. Yeah, I switched my build at least 4 times. I'm terrible at making decisions, but
I redid my build like several times, so I'm right there with you.
It is the amount of customization to your character in a build, and yes, it has been like this for all of the games. I just want to say it's phenomenal. It is so good. I could play a mage and actually feel like a mage. I can play like this sword mage and feel like a sword mage. I can also play a heavy bruiser. I can play a paladin. Like, there's so many archetypes and ways you can build your character that are effective, actually, I think mages are the most, but everything is effective and viable. It just feels so good that you can kind of figure out and craft the character how you want, and then you can change mid-game. Because this game has, I think, the easiest way to respec because against any of the other ones. I still think it is a little much because if you run out of the item, you're done. But I do like that you can respec as many, almost as many times as you want. I mean, there's so many available that there's enough, but there is a finite amount. but it's super cool, and it's not too far into the game. I think it's actually an appropriate mark into the game where you get to respec, and this just allows you to create so many cool things or cool builds, and you build around a weapon. Like, you get this really cool weapon, you're like, oh, I want to use that, and it gives you that chance. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I really enjoyed that aspect, that I got to create these different builds, try different things, try heavy armor, try light armor. Try magic, try melee, try melee and magic, try buffs. I mean, there's just so many different ways you can go. And there's so much information online about different types of builds. I mean, there's just so much you can do. I just have to give it to them from a build perspective. There's not a lot of games that hit where they are. And I got to give them the highest marks when it comes to builds.
Yeah, and speaking of which, when you make your character initially, and I'm speaking strictly appearances here, that's not your final time being able to do it. When you enter the hub area of the round table, you will have the opportunity plenty of times, as many times as you want, to change your character's appearance. If you're like, I don't know if I'm feeling these eyes, I don't know if I'm feeling this hair, I don't know if I'm feeling this gender. And you can do that whenever you want, essentially, in the game. And that's also a welcome change, especially for those who feel like, oh, I designed my character with this in mind, but now that I'm no longer that character build, now I kind of want, if you want to roleplay it, I guess, I'm no longer a mage, so now I'm a samurai. Samurai is one of the origin classes. Now I'm a sword-based class of some sort, so now I want to look the part. You could change your appearance at any time. In my case, I never changed my appearance, but I definitely, like Dion did, changed my build so many times. I was originally going to be pure magic because I never really did magic in any of the games that we mentioned earlier.
It's so strong though. You didn't stick with that? That's surprising.
Well, I did stick with it, but I realized, I'm the type of player that's like, I like being a glass cannon, but not like this. So I said, okay, instead of being, say, Gandalf, I'm going to be Geralt of Rivia. So I balanced. I still primarily used magic, but I used weapons that used magic damage. And if I needed physical damage, I just had a separate sword for physical. So now you get the Geralt of Rivia reference.
Well, you're gonna have to tell me what weapon you used. I tried so many different weapons. I was a faith in strength, then I was a faith in dex, and that was a faith. So I kind of switched around. I really want to try one other weapon. I'm probably gonna go back to the game later and try it. So, it's an int and faith weapon. So, I'm really excited. I really like the game. Very good.
Same here.
I wish I had more time, but I don't.
Yeah, we got
after 80 hours. I'm like, I can't.
we got to keep it moving. We've been playing the game for a month, and this channel has just been sitting here. Sorry about that, guys, but I think we were all kind of locked inside playing Elden Ring. So I think you get it. From this point, we can move on to our final thoughts. If you want to start there, Dion.
Sure. Elden Ring may definitely be the best open world game in the last few years, and there's a lot of good ones. I still think they beat everyone else out, and mostly because I really like the RPG elements and that it's so easy to explore and so encouraging. Players are strongly encouraged to explore, which can result in very interesting and exciting discoveries, which I think is really good. They have a really huge amount of secrets that you can find, and some are like almost feel impossible to find, but you can, and they add to the game and the experience and the story. The story is easier to follow than the past games. I think we have to give it that credit. It is easier to put those little pieces together, but it's still not straightforward, and I would prefer it to be further straightforward than it is. That was always one of my negatives with the Souls games. I never in it for the story. I don't want to dig for the story. I want to know that story right up front, and that's probably my one negative for the game. But the builds and the characters, they're extremely satisfying, and you can make any build and be whoever you want. I think that's one of my strongest good things about this game, things that'll get you to play. So, in conclusion, the game is definitely a must-play. I'm very excited to see what From Software goes from here. I haven't been this excited for them before, so.
And in my case, Elden Ring has to be one of the best open world games I've played in recent memory. The last one, to my knowledge, being, if I'm really being critical here, the last open world game that really had me invested in all that was probably Breath of the Wild. It's the kind of game that actually makes me want to explore every inch of it, to find something or someone new, and gives me very satisfying boss fights to boot. The game story is vague, as you would expect from a From Software game, unless it's Sekiro, which is very straightforward. But I personally love the mystery of it and putting the pieces together personally. But if there's anything else I missed, I could revisit it at a later date, because I will be playing it casually whenever I feel like it. Or if I'm feeling lazy, I'll just go watch a YouTube video, going over those bits to see how they all link together, and then further have my mind blown. All I've got to say right now is this was fun, From Software. Let's do this again when you drop another game in 7 years.
Alrighty, I think that's all we got for now. Thank you all for stopping through to listen here at DuoQueue. If you think we might have glossed over something, feel free to say so in the comments. And don't forget to share and leave a like. Next time you're waiting for a party or searching for a lobby, feel free to tune in again while you wait. See ya.
Later, guys. Oh, you were expecting me to make a tri-finger butthole joke? Nah, frankly, I don't make the jokes that go that deep.